How's it going, guys? You ready for camp? It's the best time of the year. Started off with some questions. I'm ready. Fire away.
Coach, in the spring you had some key components rehabbing. Really, the D-line's going to look a lot different tomorrow than probably it did at the end of spring in March. Kind of speak to the new guys that are be implemented back into that D-line rotation.
Sure. Some of our more talented guys are coming back, guys that I'm really excited to watch play. There's guys that have been through a lot that I have a relationship with, Gibby being one of them. He's one of our better players at Marshall. The kid's been through a lot with a serious injury. He has lots of potential, and he has the ability to play this game at the next level. And I've watched him from a distance just pour his heart and soul out into getting back, So I'm really excited for that to pay off for him. Mentally, people that haven't played the game, they don't really understand that it's such a strong part of your identity and who you are, and when you're fighting every day from a mental standpoint to get back from that, how hard that is mentally for a young man. And he's put in the work. He's suffered well through the process, and now it's time for him to cash in all those chips. So we're really excited to have him back for camp. He's one. Jabari is a guy who was with us at Marshall as well, who had one of our better players, but had injury issues during the season that he was fighting through. So he was never 100% for us. Very, very talented. He's back healthy, moving really, really well. He's another guy that has fought through a lot. So we're excited to have him back and see what he's going to bring to us in camp. I know what he brings from a leadership standpoint and from an athleticism standpoint, so that piece is huge for us as well. Guys like Broderius were very limited in the fall up front. We all know what he can do as a dude that's returning. That was one of the better players in the league last year, but he was limited as well in spring. Some of that was calculated because we needed to evaluate guys that we needed to find out who can play and who couldn't, and stuff like that. So now there's a lot of guys that are back, to your point. Now the emphasis is getting those guys to play together. You can put a bunch of talent out on the field, but that doesn't make you a good defense. We got to get them to play with cohesion and be on the same page and fight for each other on college football Saturdays. That's what camp's all about. It's my favorite time of the year. Besides calling plays on game day, I love camp. It's a time for those guys to forge the bonds and the relationships that are going to be required to go win on Saturday. So we're excited to start that process beyond just the X's and O's and stuff.
Hattiesburg, just talked about the cohesion there. Tell me a little bit what you kind of figured out about the group you have right now.
We've figured out a lot from a schematic standpoint, what we're going to be able to do, what the install is going to look like, what the schematic X's and O's are, what our depth is probably going to be. It's allowed us to narrow in our focus on what we're going to install and when, and kind of what packages and what our base defense is going to look like and things like that. So from the football X's and O's standpoint, we got a pretty good idea of who we're going to be during the season. Now it just comes down to who's going to be dependable, which guys are going to be above the line, growing a unit that's going to execute consistently together. So that comes down to communication and practice, and growing their tools in terms of just fundamental football and things like that. But a lot of it was an evaluation standpoint. Who can help us? Who can't? What pieces do we need? How do we need to move those pieces in terms of the X's and the O's? So we feel good about that piece. Now the other piece is the hard part. The part that matters is finding out who's going to be dependable, and then, like I said, fostering a group that's going to be cohesive on Saturday.
Coach, historically, Southern Miss has had an unbelievable, defensive level squad, and a lot of guys, for professional level, with Elias Thomas, Michael Boley, Surtain, Patrick Surtain, those guys like that. If any of those guys come back, just to, see you guys practice, at least I know you haven't really started the practice routine yet, but just be involved with the players or anything like that?
We've had a couple returning players pop in and out. Obviously, Brett Favre is the guy that has spent some time in depth with the staff, talking about what Southern Miss football should be and could be and what it was. But from a defensive standpoint, a lot of those guys have not been back. But Coach Huff, that's a head coach thing. You know what I mean? I know that Coach Huff has spent a lot of time with previous players, and in a staff setting, he is told us what. Because every environment's new, every place is new, every program's new, every program has a different history and what makes a program special and all those kind of things. And Coach Huff has done a great job of communicating what he expects and what the people that have come through here expect, and what makes this place special. So that's something that Coach Huff spends a lot of time doing.
Can I ask you, a lot of things about Chris Jones. Can I ask you about Michael Montgomery? I went back and looked, and you talk about a guy who was recruited for Oregon. I think messed up his leg and ended up at Portland State. But can you talk a little bit about him and what you saw at Portland State that said, okay, he's fully recovered, he can come back here, and just his ability to play and what type of linebacker he could be for you guys?
Sure. It's the new era of college football. So Mike and I have had a long relationship. I've known him for a while now. When I was the linebacker coach at Georgia Tech, I was recruiting him heavily during that whole thing. So he's a kid that used to be in the Atlanta area. That's when we started recruiting him heavy at Georgia Tech, and then he went back to the West Coast, and that's where he picked up, the USCs and all the Washingtons and all that kind of stuff in the recruiting process. So I started a relationship with Mike a long time ago, so I knew what kind of player he was when he went to Portland State. So he was a kid that I've always, kept in touch with and had my eye on and things like that. I knew what kind of player he was. I evaluated him as a high school player long before he played at Portland State. So I kind of knew what I was getting from a talent standpoint and a measurable size standpoint and all those things. But more importantly, especially in the era of the transfer portal, where you don't have an extended period of time to get to know the intangibles of a young man in the recruiting process like you do with a high school kid, I knew who Mike was, you know what I mean, and that's more important than all the physical attributes he brings, which is really good. That's why he was recruited by a bunch of people, right? But I know who Mike is as a man and what he brings to our football team in terms of the intangibles that we need out of a Mike linebacker.
How do you feel about your defensive line?
Most depth that we've had in a long time. We work pretty tirelessly to get our numbers up and build depth at that position. I feel really good about it right now from a depth standpoint. A lot of the faces are new. They don't have cumulative reps with the tactics that we ask guys to play with, so we have a lot of work to do in camp in terms of fundamentals and technique. But from a numbers and talent standpoint, we're in a really good spot. So it comes down to, it takes a lot to consistently win. It comes down to culture. It comes down to staying healthy. It comes down to all those kind of things. So we like where we're at from a depth standpoint. Now we just got to keep guys healthy. We got to train them to do the things that we're going to ask them to do within the defense. So I feel good about it right now.
Quick follow-up.
Yep.
The adjustment of rules that I've recently seen by one of the officiating crews at the Sun Belt and the SEC media games, defensive line are not allowed to shift anymore. Is that correct?
I've heard conflicting things. I would be surprised if that ends up being the hard and fast rule, but If that is, then we'll suffer well. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's a big disadvantage for us if that's something that we cannot do. But the game is trending towards offense and scoring points, so it is what it is. If that's the case, then we'll do whatever we can from a schematic X's and O's standpoint to try to be as competitive as we can be.
Coach, your scheme last year, obviously, Green was so big for you guys. Great athlete, but probably even more intelligent, a technician, primary, secondary moves, really good stuff. Is there anybody on this roster that has some of those traits that y'all feel maybe can fill some of that void or productivity that he gave y'all last year with TFL and staff?
Sure. He was a special player. You don't coach guys like him every year. From a talent standpoint, Jabari, both those guys are really athletic and they're long. What made Mike different was his mentality and his work ethic, and he's cerebral. He's intelligent. You know what I mean? To get drafted that high and get paid lots of money to play the game, it takes everything. It takes measurables and talent and intangibles, and you got to be the total package if somebody's going to pay you that much money to play football. From a talent standpoint, I feel good about those two guys in terms of their athleticism and things like that. A guy that can really rush the passer that we're going to give some opportunities to this year is J.J. Hawkins. He was kind of a rotational defensive end for us, but this spring, with Jabari's limited reps and things like that, he really showed that he can be a dynamic pass rusher. We had lots of success the last couple years at Marshall, being one of the better third down defenses in the country. Most people are gonna cut on the film and say, well, if you can generate pass rush with 4 down and play coverage and sack the quarterback rushing 4, you're gonna be pretty dang good on third down. Can we do that this year? I don't know. You know what I mean? Guys are going to have to go prove that on College Football Saturday. They're going to have to progress that way through camp. Obviously, everybody in America would do it if they could do it. When you cut on NFL film, there's not a lot of blitz your way off the field in the NFL. They pay the defensive ends lots of money to rush the passer. Because of that, it allows you to be really multiple in your coverage in the back end and things like that. That's who we want to be. Every defensive coordinator in the country would want to be that if they could. We'll have a plan to do both. We'll see how effective we are pass rushing and how those guys' skills come along and how productive they are in games. And then we'll go from there in terms of how effective we're going to be on third down, or if we have to blitz our way off the field and do things like that to attack protections. It's all about what your players can and can't do.
Coach, nice to meet you. I'm David Elstein, Sports Director at WJTV and WHLT, the CBS stations here in
Awesome.
Jackson. What does a guy like Chris Jones stood out to you with so far, and what does he mean to the program for sticking around? He was a guy that was at Sunbelt Media Days, a guy that's a representative of the team. So what do you just see from him, especially being a local guy who chose to stay here from one year to the next and change?
Sure. Outside of the athleticism and the measurable talent, that's really important to Chris, you know? He wants to win in the worst way, and his work ethic is reflecting that so far. When it matters a lot to you and you have very strong work ethic, naturally what happens is it gives you influence within the team. And that's what he's bringing to the table right now. His intangible qualities are tremendous, in my opinion. I've coached some really good linebackers. That's what always makes a good linebacker. It's not just physical talent. It's your work ethic, and it's your ability to spend time learning the game of football and knowing what's going on the field schematically. He's come a long way since I first walked in the door here. So he's excited about putting his work out there on the field and being dependable for his teammates and getting production and creating value for himself, but more importantly, helping us win a lot of games. That's what Chris brings to the table. When I look at him in the group of 100 dudes in the locker room, I don't know if there's anybody that cares more and wants to win more than him.
Coach, what's kind of the personality
That's up to the players. I tell my guys all the time, you're never going to be in life what other people want you to be. You're going to be what you want to be. Do I have a vision? Yeah, it's probably the same vision that every defensive coordinator in America comes up here and gives talking points about being aggressive and violent and all that kind of stuff. At the end of the day, it's going to be up to the dudes on our side of the ball. We're going to coach them hard. We're going to ask them to do a lot of the things that everybody else in America is asking their guys to do. But that my vision is irrelevant. I think the job of a coach is to develop your players and give them the skills and the tools to be able to do it. So I'm going to do that as a coach. I'm going to ask them to communicate and buy in and learn schematic football and hold each other accountable to the standards of the defense and play fast and violent and all those things. But at the end of the day, every individual man needs to make that decision for themselves in terms of the collective identity of the unit. So going back earlier to my earlier point, that's what camp is all about. You know what I mean? They got to fight for that every day when it's 100 degrees outside and it's really humid and all those kind of things. Those are the days that matter. Those are the days where those guys are going to have to make a conscious choice. If we go out there and we're worried about how hot it is and how tired we are and how sore we are and things like that, and we let the circumstances that we're in determine what kind of defense we're going to be that day, that's who we'll be. We'll be a defense that plays hard when we have the lead and one that lets go of the rope when we don't. It's up to the players at the end of the day. I'll do everything that I can, and we have an elite head coach that does a great job of developing identity and mindset and mentality and all those kind of things. So we're going to go fight for it. I'm pretty excited about it.
Coach, two other technical questions. Your 4-3-5, your front four. What are you looking for physically and skill-wise at each one of those positions? And is there a design subgroup for it?
The 4-2-5 only works if you have a nickel. So it's the hardest position for us to recruit. It's the hardest position for us to find. We have a really good one, an Ian Foster. The nickel he's what makes your defense multiple. He has to be able to blitz. He has to be able to cover man-to-man. He has to be able to play vision zone. He has to be able to play a half. He has to be able to do all the pieces of the defense that everybody else is asked to do. Cover like a DB, cover like a safety, fit the run like a linebacker. He has to be able to do all those things. That's kind of what makes the 4-2-5 work. That's the difference in a 4-2-5 and a 4-3 structure. The piece that kind of makes it work is your boundary defensive end, Jabari. So when we play 4-down, 4-2-5 structure, but we have some 3-4 principles. So in order to do that, you have to have a dude that can play true defensive end, hand in the ground, defensive end, and a dude that can do outside linebacker things. So those are the two swing pieces that really have to be adjustable, and they have to do multiple things to allow your defense to be multiple. In terms of the linebacker position, the will linebacker plays in space more, so Chris is going to, guys like Chris and all the guys that play will, Harper and Sledge and guys like that are going to be more athletic, and they're going to be more space players because they're most of the time going to be in those positions. Bigger guys like Mike and Haygood and guys like that are bigger. They're going to be more core run fit guys. So from a body type perspective, that's what you're looking for at Mike and Will. The corners are the corners. It's college football. You have to be long, fast, really athletic, right? That is what it is at that position. For us, we're split field safety. We play quarters mechanics. We play cover 3. We play man. We do a lot of different things, right? So your safeties are pretty interchangeable. You're just looking for really good movement patterns, and the safeties have to be communicators, right? So for us, all of those guys, they have athleticism, but if you can't call coverage mechanics and get us lined up in the back end, you're probably not going to play. So that's all about being really cerebral, right?
Time for one more.
Coach, y'all added a new D-line coach after spring. Kind of introduce us to him a little bit, what you know about him.
Yeah, Coach Mathis he's phenomenal. He's an experienced defensive line coach. We ask our defensive line to do a lot. We do a lot of mechanics up front. He's an experienced guy that's coached in every defensive scheme you could possibly have. He's a guy that blends into the staff really well. He's a good recruiter. The players like him. He has a solid teaching progression because he's experienced. There's nothing that I've presented to him that he can't coach. So from an experience standpoint, I've coached all the positions on defense, but I have limited experience coaching the defensive line. So it's good for me as a coordinator to have a guy that has coached lots of football. So we can have those conversations about how we want to play blocks and what we want to call terminology, so we can all be on the same page, because it all ties together at the end of the day. So we're really excited about what the knowledge that he brings, how he coaches in terms of being energetic and things like that is also a big thing for me. He gets after it on the grass. So I feel like it's a home run hire from Coach Huff. I really do. I'm really excited to work with him.
Coach, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all you guys do, man. Yep.